People need to understand that when you're watching Donald Trump fight tooth and nail, with the variety of lawsuits he has, the Democrats aren't sitting around doing nothing.
No,
they've got their version of fighting, and I suppose in some places like Pennsylvania, it's ramming through certification before anyone realizes what's happening. Because I didn't even realize. When I found out, I was like, wait, what? That was today? What? Because I was tracking certification of all of these states, and I'm like, Michigan is this day. Here's what we're waiting for at the State Board of Canvassers, and then I thought Pennsylvania was going to be way later. Then it just happened.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching, in Michigan too, and it's the same thing. It's these weird. The Democrats' strategy has been the entire time. You know what? I'm going to be careful in the words that I use, but since the beginning of even before 2016. I remember I was in San Jose, California. I think it was in 2015, I think it was 2015, maybe 2016. And I watched a guy walking out of a Trump rally, just minding his own business. People were screaming at him, and he looked all confused. And someone runs up behind him and smacked him in the back of the head with some bag full of heavy objects. And it cut him pretty bad, and he was bleeding, and he was all like, what's happening? Since that day, and before, but for me, since that day, I've been watching them basically say to anybody who supports Republicans or Trump, we will physically hurt you. We will physically hurt your family. We will destroy your life. We will target your job if you dare say anything. Now, here's what's crazy. Trump's secret voters. They said in the press they didn't exist. Oh, no, Trump's secret voters is not a real thing. Nate Silver on 538. There's no secret Trump voters, no evidence. And then all their polls were wrong by massive and historic margins.
Again, this time. This time.
Worse than last time.
Yeah.
It was like, I think,
Trafalgar
between 4 to 7%.
Trafalgar got it right to the extent that you can. But I've been to 3 rallies with the president, and one in Latrobe, one in Moon Township, one in Butler. I've never seen anything like it in my life. They are positive. They're like a concert environment with the most diverse group of people that you can imagine, and they're all friendly. They all love America. They're fun. People have a blast, but then you drive home, right? And then you watch it portrayed on the media, and they treat it like it's this negative. Rally. Yeah, it's the truth. And they take nuts. The president makes jokes right on stage, and when you're there in the moment, you can feel the environment. He's joking, but then this is why I said, leading into the show, you can't make jokes in politics, right? You just can't. You can't have any fun. You can't make any jokes. But the president jokes, and then they take the president out of context, and then they say he's saying some inflammatory remark, and they make the rallies seem like they're super negative. And they did this with me too. Like, I went on a show with called UnPC on Fox News. The show is hosted by a stand-up comedian. The whole point of the show is to take up unpolitically correct positions and defend them and make jokes. And I made jokes about the idea of independent women, and women need men. And of course, one of the hosts of the show is a woman who I'm friends with, trying to get her going a little bit. We were having fun, but what they did was during my campaign was clip that up and attack me somehow I hate women. It's like, wait a second, it's a comedy show. That's not true.
That's part of the tactics we've seen over the past several years. The cancel culture.
They exactly.
So think about this. Trump managed to gain what is he up, like 11 or 12 million, 11 million voters?
Over 11 million new voters. 11 million more people in 2020 voted for him.
But here's the crazy thing. So secret Trump voters existed, a lot of them. And it was because of, in my opinion, many reasons, but the threats of the left to take your job away from you, that these people weren't going around explaining to others why they should vote for Trump as well. So I know a bunch of celebrities who have hit me up saying, if anybody ever found out I was a Trump supporter, my career would be over.
Yeah.
And I've said indirectly, you're a coward, because you're going to wake up one day, Trump is going to lose, and you're going to say, if only I risked more. And instead, you are willing to sacrifice what you think this country needs for yourself. But this is not to drag those who are scared of the left. But the strategy of the Democrats the whole time has been partly, because I would say there's a lot of activist groups, but Democratic activists know they've threatened people. There have been mobs. They have come for the board of canvassers.
They came to my house.
They went to your house.
Did you see what they did? They spray painted.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
they came to my house.
Yep.
And people are like, "Oh, Parnell did that himself. I'm like, you think with I got between the two of us, we got 6 kids. You think I got time to go out and spray paint my damn garage with red paint? Like, ain't nobody got time for that.
Antifa does.
They came to my house, you know, and that's my thing. After having been, I'm an infantry combat veteran. I've been 485 days of heavy combat in the Hindu Kush Mountains of heavy combat. You know, my platoon took an 85% casualty rate. Like, I took real life flak in Afghanistan. Like, you know, I was wounded over
literal
there.
flak.
Yeah, like I can take this too. And to me, and I've said this to you before, but I mean it when I say I don't take an oath to a political party. I love this country. I love the people of this country, and my oath is to the Constitution. This isn't a popularity contest, and maybe I'm in the wrong profession because elections are kind of like popularity contests.
Definitely.
But you know,
it's crazy. It's crazy how politics. War and politics go hand in hand. It's a fight for control, for power. And, you know, in many instances, and, you know, you give me your thoughts on this, but war happens when the speaking stops, when the ability when the ability to control someone or get what you want ends with negotiation.
Yeah.
They find another way to do it.
Yeah, they say that war is like the last 20, I don't remember what the phrase is, like the last the last 25 yards of foreign policy or something like policy failure or whatever. But I always say that politics is war, just without the bullets. You know, it is. But for me, it's not about like having been in charge of soldiers' lives, right? Where every decision that you make might mean, if it's a bad decision, that somebody goes home in a body bag. I've had real power at a young age. And what I learned in having that power is, one, learning to wield it responsibly, but not even wield it. Leadership is about taking the power that's bestowed upon you and giving it back to the people that you lead, right? And empowering them to do what they believe in their hearts is right. And so that's how I see the job of politician, right? And I hate that word. In fact, every time I say it, I throw up in my mouth a little bit. But for me, this job, like my ultimate goal, like if I ever win an election in my life, would be to go to Washington, hit the reset button on everything, and then move back to Western Pennsylvania and like buy a farm and never talk to anybody else again when the mission is complete, right? Because I am not, being a politician in Washington, while it would be a tremendous honor to represent the people, that's not like the pinnacle of my life's ambition.
You know, the challenge is the war is never ending. You know, in actual warfare, you can take the ground and then you're like, we got it, you secure it, we're good, or whatever, or, you know, the war can be ended. But in terms of politics, there's always pushback. So you get into Congress and you say, hey, we're going to stop these things, they're unconstitutional. They're pushing back the whole time, endlessly. Yeah,
and the left, and the thing about the left is that they know how to fight. They know how to unify.
Organize.
You know, Newt Gingrich says it best. Republicans care about campaigns. Democrats focus on elections, right? And
interesting.
He's right about that.
Yep.
You know, the campaign that we ran for Congress, I would say, was the best in the country. We had thousands, and I mean thousands of volunteers.
But they were changing the rules.
They were changing the rules.
They changed the rules, and they said, you know what reminds me of that old quote? Put me in charge of a nation's money, and I care not who makes the laws. Who said that? Is that a real quote? Maybe it's just something on the internet.
You just made that.
Sure, you just made it up. Yeah.
I think it was good. Like Nathan Rothschild or something.
Oh, Nathan Rothschild. Interesting.
Well, I will tell you, you are right. I think you are right to a certain extent. They made sure the rules benefited them. You know, you look at our experience on election night, right? And I'll just walk through what happened, right? On election night, we spent it with friends and family at my house. We'd run up the score. We were up on Lamb on election night by 17 points.
Oh.
Over 43,000, close to 45,000 votes. Like, we were up on 45,000 votes on election night. And then all of a sudden, Allegheny County stopped counting. And we're like, wait, why is Allegheny County stopping counting? Why are they doing that? And so they're supposed to start counting again the day after Election Day at 10 in the morning. Right? Did they start counting at 10 in the morning? No.
Yeah.
But a guy named Rich Fitzgerald, who is the ranking member on the Board of Elections, went out and did a media blitz instead and said, we're confident that when the election is done and the ballots are counted, Congressman Lamb is going to have a 2 percentage point lead.
Huh.
And I'm sitting there with my team thinking, well, that is, you know what? That takes some gumption. You know, that's a your
Bold
boys
prediction.
Your boy's down by 45,000 votes.
Precise prediction.
We knew on election night, and we had run tabulations. These are not projections, right? Because we knew how many mail-in ballots there were for Lamb, for me, and independents, and we said if Lamb got everything he was supposed to get, and I got everything I was supposed to get, and we split independents, even give him 60% of independents, he had no mathematical path. We'd have a margin of victory of just over 13,000 votes. People were calling us to congratulate us. I think a couple of news outlets called the race for us because, again, there was no honest mathematical path.
But they found him.
So after the Rich Fitzgerald's media blitz, they start counting the vote the day after Election Day at about 2:30, and the race tightened because Lamb had more mail-in votes than we did, and we expected that, right? And then at 8:30 or about 8:30, there were two ballot dumps, one of 4,000, one of 9,000.
All for Lamb.
Almost exclusively all for Lamb.
Do you know the percentage?
20, almost all for Lamb. Like 25 minutes later, listen, like 25 minutes later, he scampers out to the podium and declares victory. Now, there are still 25,000 ballots left to count. Like not mail-ins, like provisionals and things like that. And in Beaver County and Butler County, how are you going out and declaring victory with a razor-thin margin of like 1,000 votes at that point, unless you know something that I don't?
What did he do before he ran for Congress?
He was a federal prosecutor. The guy's never known a job outside the government. He's never had to earn a private paycheck in his life. But the point I'm trying to make is, what we're trying to get answers. Like, where do those ballots come from? You know?
Yeah.
Allegheny County.
But so you knew how many mail-in votes there were,
Mm-hmm.
and
it's
then
not a projection. We knew. You know.
But then when they came in, they were all for Lamb. Is that what happened?
Almost all.
Is that what surprised you?
Yes.
Or was the number of mail-in ballots different?
Right now, Lamb is up by like 88,000 or so votes. So that was the difference.
Interesting.
And so we still don't know where those ballots came from.
But they weren't part of the original totals? Like, was it
not that we were aware of.
That's weird. But like, so...
And so on a smaller scale, right?
So when you're talking
like
about...
The same thing that happened to me on a smaller scale happened to the president in places like Milwaukee and Detroit,
right,
and Philadelphia.
Well, you're talking about Beaver County, these 2,000 ballots. That could change your election.
Well, I don't know if it would be enough to change the election, but I will say in a few hours' time, they found 2,000 ballots that were very questionable. Now, if we had more time, looking more nursing home facilities, 8,000 votes in a race where 440,000 people voted.
Are you gonna call for a hard audit? Like
the Pennsylvania State Legislature called for one, and then they did it. They had a committee, and they said, "Oh, you know what? We can't find a contractor to do it in 60 to 90 days, so we can't do the audit."
But can't you do something about that?
We're trying to raise money, an election defense fund money, and we're certainly doing that with the lawsuit with Act 77, as we talked about. And
we need to look at each and every ballot. Those mail-in ballots.
That's it. That's exactly it.
You need to have a Democrat, Republican, and an independent all look at it and verify it. The challenge is, but listen, man, I'll tell you this. I honestly don't think any of that matters. You know why? It's a propaganda war. You could personally find a ballot that has never been folded, that looks machine printed, and the Democrats will call you a liar. You could actually have a legitimate argument, this is unconstitutional, and we didn't know until now, and they'll say you're just trying to cheat the election.
That's exactly what
it's just propaganda.
That's certainly what they're doing with me.
It's about how many people can they convince which side to be on.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, and the Democrats are good at that. They're good at that. And
that's so to go back, I did Google search. I do believe that quote is not real.
You just made it up. That's profound.
No. It's a very famous quote on the internet, but it's like attributed to different people. So I found a bunch of different sources saying it was Nathan Rothschild, but it's not confirmed. They also say it's attributed to Mayor Amschel Rothschild or maybe Andrew Fletcher.
So Twitter told me that it was Mayor Rothschild. And I believe
Mayor.
everything I read on Twitter, so I'm going to go with
Permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws. I'll put it this way.
The mayor.
Give me control of the rules of an election, and I don't give a crap about someone's campaign. I don't care how they campaign. If you
Well,
can change the rules, then what does it matter?
Well, and look, that's certainly what the Democrats did this election.
You know what's funny? Republicans end up losing because they didn't cheat.
Well,
That's how it
I mean,
works.
what happens is what happens is that, you know, out in California where ballot harvesting and stuff is legal, is that 2 election cycles later, Republicans catch up and fight the way that they fight, and then we start winning again. But then you're like, then it's like, but
Then
like,
there's no election.
but is it an election, or are we
No.
just playing a game?
But it's not just that. It's that you don't have the media on your side to control and manipulate narratives. Although I
Or
think
or schooling or entertainment or
Yeah, no
any
cultural
other
institutions.
cultural institutions.
that's another thing. One of the quotes I heard is that Republicans care about winning elections and Democrats care about winning control of cultural institutions because politics is downstream from culture.
Well, that's the truth. That's the truth, and that's why part of the reason why I do what I do, writing fiction and stuff like that. I mean, like, it is because
Conservatives are really bad at it.
well, yeah.
Your stuff's probably good though.
Well, I feel like I am an anomaly when it comes to mainstream conservatism. Like I'm, you know, I play music. I play the guitar. Back in high school, I played guitar and bass, and I like music. Like I can appreciate art. Like there's a creative side to me that I think a lot of conservatives don't have, and I think, you know, Democrats are very good at making emotionally resonant political arguments, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, Martin Luther King was an amazing cultural icon. I have a dream speech inspired 500,000 people to show up on the Washington Mall without emails or cell phones, right? But I Have a Dream was not I Have a 10-point plan. This is like I'm stealing a little bit from Simon Sinek here. But my point is that I feel like Republicans need to get better at making emotionally compelling arguments and not trotting out a 10-point plan.
Yep. And so the Democrats end up with people who win power by promising, you know, whispering sweet nothings into the ears of their constituents. Like that's why there's a tendency. It's why the Democrats are the party of continually moving further and further left. Andrew Yang tweeted something to the effect that he's literally offering people money to vote for him. Something like that. The UBI plan. If you vote for me, you get money.
Universal basic. Yeah. Even though it's failed everywhere it's been tried.
I like Andrew Yang. I was a bigger fan earlier on. I think he's really gone way too establishment in recently, but he early on.
He lost me when that dude sprayed whipped cream in his mouth. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that?
Yeah, me
like,
too.
it was just a little
right,
weird.
that's right,
It was just
yeah.
a little weird. I'm like, you know, I
are you
thought
doing?
Look, I can appreciate.
See, that's an emotional argument.
I can appreciate nonconformist politicians, people who I love that. In fact, you know, but that was a little
He's
much
trying
for me.
too
Do you know about
trying too hard.
Yeah.
do you know about the
Right.
Moral Foundations, Jonathan Haidt's research? Conservatives, there's initially they said there were 5 moral foundations. Now they say there's 6. Basically, liberals operate on only 2, care and fairness. And so I think, let me see if I can get them off the top of my head. There's care, fairness, purity, authority. What am I missing?
I don't remember.
Purity. There's liberty, and
I
there's
failed.
one more.
Let me
You
look.
want to look them up real quick?
Yeah, let me Google it.
I'm missing
real
one.
fast.
So conservatives have to varying degrees equal balance of all of the moral foundations. So, let's see, authority, for instance. It's very obvious, like trusting and respecting the authority to a
Yeah.
certain degree.
Yeah.
And there's also liberty, though. So that balances out authority, like your right and your freedom. But when it comes to making an argument to convince a traditional liberal, it's just care and fairness. That's why they go after these people are Nazis. That's why they say they're racists, because they're targeting it's not fair. They don't care. In reality, the Democrats don't either. They've just found the weakness of certain people that they can use to exploit.
I only have the 5. I have care, fairness, or care/harm. I have fairness/cheating, loyalty/betrayal, authority and subversion, and then sanctity and degradation.
Yeah. And then
Those are the
liberty
5.
was what they added.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so libertarians operate. This is really funny. Libertarians have one moral foundation: liberty. No joke.
Yeah.
That's why they. I think that's why they added it, because they were like, when doing the test, like, we don't care about any of that. Just let me be free and
Anomalous,
just
yeah.
do whatever you want. To like very strange degrees, but like sanctity is one. So this is like respecting the family and things like innocence and
Strong
protecting
borders,
kids.
maybe.
That's probably loyalty, but it's probably a combination.
Yeah.
And the left, it's just care and fairness.
Careness.
Yeah. So it's like you go to them and say, these poor children, and they'll be like, I'll vote for you. They don't care about what the argument is. They don't care about what the result is. Literally just don't be mean. But then the weird thing about it is it's really easy to rile up many of these traditional liberals to be mean and unfair and uncaring.
It's interesting if you think about this, the attack on me in my lawsuit to try to protect all of Pennsylvania voters from not being disenfranchised. With the way that they try to paint me is
emotional
fairness, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to disqualify 2.5. It's like that's not true. In fact,
that's projecting. They changed the rules. Both Republicans and Democrats changed the rules and played fast and loose with the will of the people. And now that's the best thing they can do. It's why they say, this is what I love. Trump's the fascist who's signing peace agreements, withdrawing our troops from the Middle East, and who did not invoke the Insurrection Act to go crush protesting and rioting.
You're exactly right. If you told me, after having spent enough time in Afghanistan to legally vote in that country, I swear...
Wow.
If you told me that President Trump was going to sign Middle East peace deals and come closer to Middle East peace than any other president in my lifetime,
I mean, I think
I wouldn't have believed you. What
I know.
this
Me neither.
energy independence, and I would have never believed our country would have been energy independence. I always thought we were going to be beholden to countries that hated us. We're energy independent. We've got Middle East peace deals. The president has weakened our enemies like China and Russia. His foreign policy has been remarkably successful. His domestic policy, almost every demographic has lived a better life under this president. Again, he performed better with Latinos and African Americans. The president, as part of his agenda, has been lifting up the African-American community with opportunity zones and funding historically black colleges. This guy has done more for this country and gets absolutely no credit. And this is the thing that kills me. You think he needs this?
You know what?
I mean, the guy's a billionaire. Think about this, Tim. The guy's a billionaire, right? In 2016, he defeated a Clinton and a Bush, right? I mean, people were like, Donald Trump's a buffoon. He's not smart. The guy created an empire, defeated a Clinton and a Bush,
right.
And in 4 years did things for this country that I never thought possible. You still hear people in the media say he's a fascist and he's dumb.
Well,
that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
The first thing is they're like, Trump's the fascist. Now that we've defeated him, bring on the forced mandatory lockdowns.
Yeah.
In Newark, New Jersey, the mayor was saying they didn't want you couldn't leave your home.
Did you see the police, who I love and I'm a big supporter of, but did you see the police arresting that guy who violated curfew? They're like, get your hands in the cuffs, and he's like, there's like 20 of you on me. I can't even move. He's like, why are you tackling me? He's like, you violated curfew. It's like,
I didn't see that one.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow.
And why are we locking down again?
I don't know. It's against science.
Well, there's no scientific. There's scientifically dubious. The mask study that came out, 6,000 participants, 3,000 people. The one from Denmark.
Denmark, yeah.
3,000 no masks, 3,000 with masks, and the people that wore masks changed out their masks every single day. And you know what the media says in this country about the study, who determines that their masks don't really help. In fact, they can put you at more of a risk. The media in this country is like, well, what the study actually means is that we need to wear more masks and wear them more. I'm like, how could you possibly come to that conclusion? That's not what the study says.
You're not allowed to talk about it.
They had great interpretations.
You're not allowed to talk about any of this stuff.
No.
You're not.
So it's very obviously what they do. I think, look, Democrats have one very simple and easy path to victory. Low information voters. It's why they target the youth vote. So look, I can be more disrespectful towards the Democratic politicians. You're trying to be probably for the people, all the people, regardless.
Well, I think in our campaign we're breaking, but we had a ton of youth support.
But there are smart young people, but like most young people lack the experience to understand why we. I hear these. It's really funny when you see all these young people who are for socialist policies, and I mean literal socialist policies, not social democratic or I'm talking about these social democratic socialists who want to give the means of production to the working class when these people are not the working class. That's the funniest thing. You look at these DSA meetings, the Democratic Socialists of America, and you see a bunch of like 20 somethings who don't actually do the hard labor jobs. They're like the managerial elites. They're the upper middle class suburbanites, claiming that they should give the control of the means of production to the people. That's insane. But then you see when they actually do say stuff like healthcare is a human right. Like how is it possible that someone else's labor is your right? Someone has to do that work. Now, I certainly think we can do our best to make sure that we grant healthcare to more people, because I'm actually a fan of like base level universal healthcare, which would be if you break your arm, if you get the flu or something, you can go in and you don't got to worry about it. So that way we make sure that people aren't dying in the streets, so that people aren't getting serious deformity, serious long-term permanent damage.
I totally agree. There needs to be a safety net for everybody.
But the issue is when it comes to rare and exotic diseases or genetic ailments that are hard to cure, we can't guarantee it as a right. But here's what the Democrats do. They use these things that just... It's a child's solution to a grand problem. The easiest way to explain it is when you see these people say, we have more empty homes than we have homeless people. Problem solved. It's like you can't just put a homeless person in a random house. The house has to be maintained. Like otherwise it falls apart. You can get hurt. There's the building codes have to be upheld. You can't just take a mentally ill person, not all homeless people, but some. And this is what they don't understand, because a lot of young people don't have the experience or the understanding, and I mean that with no disrespect. They have I spent my early 20s working at homeless shelters, and then I actually learned, wow, homelessness has nothing to do with laziness or, for the most part, unemployment. Typically, it's an issue of mental health, and it's really hard to solve that problem. I learned that. Then you hear these people say, just put them in a house. I'm like, I've worked with these people, man. We need to be there for them. You can't just ignore this. The Democrats propose these kinds of policies that regular people don't understand why it doesn't make sense.
Well, and I think what you're speaking to is something, we're talking about cultural institutions. I think by and large, many schools are failing our young people.
Oh yeah.
We don't teach civics anymore. We don't teach real social studies anymore.
Finance.
We don't teach finance or real economics. We don't. Capitalism in this day and age is almost a dirty word.
Seriously.
Schools
should be like, okay, for today's class, how to file for an S corp. The difference between a C corp, an S corp, an LLC, a 501c3, a 501c4. Here's how you start your own business.
Yeah.
We don't do any of that.
Well, and you talked about healthcare. I mean, you talked about having a base level of care for everybody, which I think is important. But I would like to see, we do association healthcare plans for businesses to allow small businesses to band together to have the same purchasing power as large corporations. I think that's a good thing. But if it's me, let's take it a step further, right? And let's let individuals band together of a certain age, maybe with certain healthcare needs, have it all be app-based technology. And so individuals band together for certain plans, take it a step further. And that way, healthcare becomes affordable for everybody. And people can have, there's more competition, there's more flexibility.
This is the interesting thing about healthcare, too, is, I think Trump did this, right? Where they have to show the prices for...
Yeah, that'll take place January something 2021. But yes,
I think that's huge.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And there's also, I think... Basically,
you're getting your cost so I should go here. It's cheaper.
There's a bill on the House floor. I think it's HR 19, but it's right now prescription drug prices in this country. I don't know how we got in this topic, but they're way too high.
Just talking about the left offering up simple solutions to complex problems.
So with the left, I mean, one of the things that the left did was sign a prescription drugs government price control bill. Basically said mandated pricing. Right. Yeah. We know that doesn't work. But there's a bill in the House right now, HR 19, that would lower the cost of prescription drugs in a really pragmatic way. Now, how do we do that? Well, right now, did you know that big pharma companies pay small pharma companies to not produce generic drugs?
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what HR 19, which has got a lot of bipartisan support, would eliminate that, would make that illegal, thereby flooding the market with generic drugs and driving the cost of generic drugs down. I mean, generics are cheaper.
That's the thing too. I think with Trump, what's really interesting, a lot of the things we started seeing implemented by businesses, such as a 4-day work week, 2-week vacation, increased wages, those happened naturally due to a great economy,
free market.
Yeah, and quite literally, Trump deregulating and
exactly
boosting the economy in a variety of ways. I think one of the big issues, Trump's position on immigration resulted in not to get into too complicated situations, but when we saw, for instance, in these different chicken processing plants, illegal workers being, deported or whatever, then Americans stepped up and said, now I finally can get a job. And so there were things like that that very directly tied into, things Trump was pushing, tariffs, for instance, opposing these free trade agreements, which brought a lot of manufacturing back to the United States. And for a variety of reasons, the economy started doing really, really well. The left wanted these things like a 4-day work week, like vacation, through mandate by the government just decreeing it. So we're going to pass a law. You have to do it. But it doesn't work that way. It's just like giving someone. It's almost like, look, maybe some of these politicians just genuinely don't know how any of this stuff works, and thinks they can just rubber stamp everybody gets a house, we're done.
Well, that does not surprise me, because many of these politicians have never done anything else but hold political office.
Right.
Yeah,
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah,
that's his thing.
And Joe Biden been in politics for 47 years, has been on the wrong side of literally every major decision that he's ever had to make. I mean, he literally opposed the Obama, the Osama bin Laden raid.
Someone said he lost to Dukakis in '87. Is that true?
I don't know.
That's funny.
I don't know, but did he? He did. Like, people were like over there nodding. Yeah, yeah. I mean, even Robert Gates, who's Barack Obama's Secretary of Defense, said that he's been on the wrong side of every major foreign policy decision for his whole career. Now, where's the media on this?
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.